For 5 decades, Kiss has set the world on fire. With bombastic live stage shows and high-flying, fire-breathing, face-melting brand of rock, Kiss has always lived by the mantra, you wanted the best, you got the best. And the loyal Kiss Army made them the hottest band in the world. Now, Gene, Paul, Tommy, and Eric give their fans one last look at the spectacle that is Kiss. And tonight, before they hit the highway on their end-of-the-road world tour, they've stopped in their hometown for iHeartRadio Icons with Kiss. Live from our iHeartRadio Theater in New York City, here's your host, Jim Kerr.
Well, good evening, and live from New York City, which is the Kiss hometown.
This is our hometown.
It's the Kiss hometown. Welcome to iHeartRadio Icons. And, of course, we've got Paul and Eric and Tommy and Gene with us, and a group of Kiss Army members from New York City. Now, earlier this week, Kiss finally revealed the dates of the End of the Road tour, the most ambitious undertaking of their 45-plus year career. But there's only so much that you can fit into a press release. So we're going to hear it straight from them. All the details that we can possibly squeeze out of them. So will you please join me in welcoming to the iHeartRadio Theater in their hometown, Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, Tommy Thayer, and Eric Singer, Kiss.
Hey.
So let's get right down to it, okay? Whose idea was it that this was the right time to do this, and why?
I think for us, we've been having such a great time on tour, and we also realize that everything is finite. Nothing can go on forever. At least we can't in terms of us being in this band. It's been amazing. It's been 4.5 decades. Most bands who wear T-shirts and jeans, God bless them, they can play into their 90s. We certainly could. But we're wearing 30 to 50 pounds of gear, running around on stage, trying to give our audience, trying to give you what you deserve, what you've deserved for the past 45 years. And we realize that at some point, it's not going to be possible. So before that day comes, it just seemed, rather than wait and just look at each other at the end of a tour and go, we're spent, that's not Kiss's way of doing it. We wanted to go out and do the biggest, the grandest, most explosive show we've ever done. And that's what we planned. So we've been in the works now for, well over 6 months. We've been rehearsing for over a month, having pyro demos and all that, planning a set list. This is really important to us. We're not doing it because we hate each other. We're not doing it because we're tired of doing it. We're doing it for the opposite reasons. We love what we're doing, and we want to go out doing it the way we should.
Well, when did the conversation first take place?
You know, it's not as simple as that. People like Life Simplified, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Life actually happens to you while you're busy making your plans. We were happy. Look, a few months ago in July, August, we were in Spain and Portugal playing the big outdoor shows, I don't know, 40, 50,000, whatever they were. And then we came back home thinking we're going to go back out on tour. And we looked at each other and went, you know what? We're having a great time. It's not even what Paul says. It's not that we don't like each other. We love each other. We have a great time on stage. I'm not particularly fond of him, but I like the rest of the guys. The rest of the guys.
I have been annoying you today, haven't I?
No, I love the attention.
Every day.
I love the attention.
For years, right?
But
actually, it's an ongoing
decades.
process. I'm working on it. It's an ongoing process.
It is the most astonishing thing. Eric Singer, our percussionist, at the end of a show when we're dog-tired, starts running around the block and climbing the walls. Not enough oxygen in the room. There's never been a human being with more energy. But to get back to what I was saying is, you want to go out on top. It's been so pathetic. Some of the bands we liked stay a little longer, and you say, yeah, you remember when they were great and all that. Yeah, I remember in 1804 when they did. We don't want to do that. We want to go out on top with pride, head held, high. And we used to say this. We used to say this when we first started saying, you wanted the best, you got the best. We really hoped that at the very last show, wherever that's going to be, because there has to be a last show for everybody, us included, that the words will be true. You wanted the best. you got the best, the hottest band in the world. Not kind of hot, they used to be good, pretty good, not bad. The goddamn hottest band on earth. And that's what we're going to do.
Remember when you were a kid in school and you studied sentences and you parsed the words and you tried to figure out the exact meaning? End of the road could certainly be interpreted in a way that would tell us that it's not performing per se that you are giving up. It's schlepping
Jim,
We're
that
not
you're
that
giving
smart.
up.
No.
We're really
End
not
of the
that
road
smart.
could be end of schlepping around from place to place. I mean, would there be a possibility at the end of the road when, if you could perform from time to time without the stress and strain of travel, you might do so?
You know, we're not trying to be coy. We've got Mount Everest in front of us, and it's a tall mountain to climb. So when people say, well, exactly what's going to happen afterwards, we have a 3-year tour planned. And some people, some cynics will go, oh, farewell tour, 3 years. What kind of farewell tour is that? What it means, though, is that when we play your city, once we leave, it's over. So although it goes on for 3 years, it's got a real beginning and end to it. So what happens afterwards, there will be no more touring. Beyond that, it's really hard to look at anything. We have hundreds of shows to do.
I saw the schedule. I mean, it's really an amazing schedule. And I noticed that you have circumstances where you'll be playing in one city one night and another city quite a distance away the next night. So I'm just trying to think of the logistics of that. I mean, that must mean there are multiple stages and multiple crews.
No.
We have an amazing crew.
We got the greatest road crew in the world. These guys, many of them have been with us for many years, and they can get this show, and it's a massive show, but they can get it to the next city night after night, right on time, and they're there for us. And
Wow, because
big
it's not
thanks
just,
to our road
but
crew.
it's not just setting up a regular stage for a regular rock show.
No.
I mean, this is an extravaganza
Well,
that you've got on the road.
It's interesting because when we're not touring, our crew winds up with all the best bands. And as soon as we get ready to go out, they're back. They're really dedicated and committed. And I've seen those men and women go without sleep for days to make sure that the show is up and running and that we never have to cut things out or compromise it. This is by far the biggest show we've ever done. Technology has taken leaps and bounds. So between the pyro, lasers, special effects, we threw out everything that we've had in the last few decades and started from scratch. So this really is not only the ultimate Kiss show, but it's the ultimate show of its kind now.
Well, the End of the Road show, as you just described it, it's going to be the biggest ever. But your shows have always been big. I mean,
Bigger is a good word.
Thank you.
Bigger and more is a good word.
I mean, what kind of imaginations do you guys have to sit together and try to come up with something that's going to top all of the outstanding shows that you've presented before?
Well, you realize when you see every rap star, country star, rock star, when you go to anybody's show, you're seeing Kiss DNA in their shows. And we appreciate that, but we're ready to move on to something not technical in the way that it loses its balls, if I can say that, but something that will retain its rock and roll, but be dazzling. It's not a Vegas show by any stretch of the imagination. It's just Kiss amped up and done in a way we couldn't have conceived of years ago.
I want to throw something in that I think some of us are forgetting to mention. We really are, from every aspect, literally down to, as most of you may have seen, brand new costumes. How do you like our costumes? I love them. And so we're really, even to our instruments, I mean, we're really thinking every aspect of this tour to be very special, down to our personal, not just costume, but our choice of instruments. Everyone's going to have some really great looking drums and guitars. And then it just goes on up to the production itself being like over the top.
And song-wise, we're expanding. You know, we're going to play more songs than we've ever played per concert. We've been working and rehearsing already, trying to figure out exactly what that perfect set list is for this tour.
We want to cover all eras of the band. This really isn't a celebration of any lineup. This is a celebration of the history of the band. And to that, to that effect, I'd love to see everybody who's been in this band show up and do some playing with us. If someone doesn't show up, it's not because we don't want them, but at the same time, this was never meant to be a reunion of any lineup. This is a celebration of everything that we've lived with you, and that's what the celebration is.
So it's likely that on occasional shows during the 3-year tour, there will be, former bandmates that will join you from time to time.
Why not?
But, you mentioned you're going from one city to another. That's a kind of a restful day. Right after this, we're going to head out to the airport and fly to Miami and probably land, 2 o'clock in the morning, try to get some sleep. And tomorrow morning, some of us are getting up at 8, some at 1, we're going off on the KISS cruise, which is going to go out of Miami, and we're going to be there we're going to be busy every single day.
Aren't Ace and Bruce on the
Are they
KISS
going to let
cruise?
you on the boat with those shoes?
Sorry?
Aren't Ace and Bruce on the KISS cruise?
Ace is on the cruise. Bruce is on the cruise. It's really a time to put aside any kind of petty bickering. This really is a family because we couldn't have done it without each other. Whether you want to live with these people all the time is a different story. But we can stand each other for a few songs, So that's really, the cruise will have that going for it. And look, anybody who doubts the power of this band in the last month has seen us on TV, on some network shows. Tonight we did Fallon.
Yeah, that'll be on later tonight.
That will be on later tonight. And anybody who has any doubts about this band will have to eat those words.
You guys, just so you know, we got up at 3:45 this morning to start getting ready for this day. And we're still going. We still have to fly to Miami to get on the cruise. So if you think we don't have the Energizer Bunny batteries going on.
He's the Energizer Bunny right here.
No, you guys are the role models. They set the example. Don't let them kid you. Their energy's unbelievable. This guy's got 3 kids he chases around.
Yeah, but Eric, you had the unique experience of being a 16-year-old KISS Army member. You were a fan.
I was never in the KISS Army, but I was a fan from day one. I'll tell you a story.
You don't have to officially join to be in the KISS Army.
But I want to tell you a story. The first time I saw KISS, there was a little picture in a magazine called Rock Scene, which was a New York rock magazine in the 70s. And I was a fanatic about it. And it had a page it said New Bands. And there was a picture of this band, KISS. I was like, wow, this band looks cool. I got to get the record. And Paul sent the picture in.
I sent that picture into Rock Scene magazine.
So I always like to pride myself in saying I was one of the very first people that discovered KISS right out of the gate and saw them on their first tour when they opened for New York Dolls. So I've been there from day one, and I'm a fan of the band. To get to be in the band has always been surreal because I know what it's like to be you. I know it's like to be on the front of the stage looking at the band, and now I get to be in the band and look at you doing the same thing. So I fully appreciate where all your dedication and heartfelt appreciation for the band comes from. Because
Eric knows what it's like to sneak into a KISS show. That's what he's trying to say.
I did. You got my money, Gene. I paid for the ticket.
You snuck into the show. You did not.
No, I got
pay.
kicked out.
But Eric, when I was talking to you on our show, I likened it to a guy who goes to Yankee Stadium to watch the ball game and then all of a sudden ends up on the field wearing pinstripes.
That's exactly what it is. A few of my friends told me that I said when I was a kid that I'm going to be in a band like KISS one day. And I don't remember telling them that. They told me that. So I always did have my heart set on a band like KISS. To me was like there was something perfect about it. When I saw the band, I go, the image, the music, and the logo, the name, it just all made sense. I go, yeah, that's like the perfect kind of band. I love that early 70s glam era stuff. And I was so enamored with all the British bands. And finally, when KISS came along, I go, wow, we Americans, we have a band that's cool like T-Rex and Bowie and Mott the Hoople, who I loved. So I felt like, wow, now I have a band that, everybody wants, like, you have your own team. You want a band that represents your country and where you're from. So I identified with what Kiss did. It's just, I think my mother remembers me cutting out those little pictures from Roxanne magazine, and I had an armoire, which is like a, vestibule type closet, and I had those little pictures taped on the side of that thing.
I told her he was the most energetic one.
And Tommy,
Tommy hated Kiss.
No, Tommy had another job with Kiss.
Well, I have an interesting story. I mean, a lot of people know it, but back in the 80s, I had a group called Black and Blue, and we were fortunate enough.
And I understand from time to time
That's who bought the album.
That's it. Those three people.
And from time to time, and
Tommy, you dressed up as Kiss as a kid.
From time to time, I'm told that you still sit in with them.
Well, we've done a couple benefit concerts up in Portland, where we're from. But anyway, in the mid-'80s, I had the opportunity, our band had the opportunity to be the opening act for Kiss on the Asylum tour. And we did about 25, 30 shows with these guys, and that's when I met them. And it was Gene and Paul and Bruce and Eric Carr. And they really took us under their wings and helped us and gave us advice. And then it evolved from there. And Gene ended up producing a couple of our records. And then sooner or later, that band ran its course. And these guys called me and said, hey, why don't you come work for us? And they gave me a part-time job. This is 25 years ago.
But what was that job? What were you doing?
Well, I was just doing anything and everything behind the scenes. I was working just in the Kiss camp. So I was doing all kinds of things. The first thing I believe I worked on was the History book, which is the 9-pound book. The you guys know the History book. But anyway, I was a photo editor, and I thought, this is great. There's nothing better than working for Kiss and doing these kind of things. So anyway, it evolved from there. So a few years later, they did the reunion tour, and Ace and Peter came in, and they asked me to come.
Well, let's go a little before that. Tommy is not just an accomplished songwriter, has the best hair in the band. Really,
he's got the best hair, period.
Really a good guy and all that, but he's actually an accomplished songwriter. He can sing, he can play, and he actually started writing songs with us before Ace and Peter and all that. And those songs that he co-wrote wound up on Hot in the Shade. Additionally, I was producing other acts. I didn't have enough time to finish stuff, so he'd jump on and, help produce the stuff when I couldn't come in. Bands like Doro and I don't remember the other ones, maybe EZO. A few things. But so from the ground up, you ever see somebody who says, I don't do windows? Tommy will do anything at any time, whatever has to be done. That's why my windows are so clean.
And part of what you did was reorient Peter and Ace to the Kiss show.
Well, that's true. When the reunion thing started, they asked me to come in and help these guys relearn the parts because they had, kind of got off track a little bit as far as in their solo stuff. So I spent a few weeks.
Tommy's being kind.
Well, you know me. But I spent a couple of weeks working with those guys before the band actually started rehearsing and helped them relearn the parts. And actually, it worked out really well.
And
It's
when
funny.
did they call you into the office and say, we've got a promotion for you?
Well, everything's worked out pretty good for me, don't you think?
It's funny because, sometimes some of the detractors or we'll call them haters for the moment. They'll say, "Oh, Tommy, painted Paul's house." Tommy was using one roller, and I was using another. Tommy has never been somebody who's been a gopher for us. Tommy has always been part of the team, and to this day, the only thing is that now he's worked his way to this, and we couldn't be more happy. He's been in the band 17 years.
This is iHeartRadio Icons with Kiss, live from the iHeartRadio Theater in New York City. And we have some questions submitted from the troops, the Kiss Army. And Forrest Wilson wants to know, what was your favorite period in regards to stage shows and costumes, and why?
Wow. That's a heavy question. Anybody have any?
You love Dynasty, Paul.
Dynasty was, we looked like Vegas showgirls. I mean, it was It was a wrong turn.
But we
for
liked
us.
it. Well, you liked it, right? See?
But I think that the Love Gun stage was a great stage, and the Revenge stage. We've had some really cool stages, and I hate to say that this next stage is maybe my favorite. I think that I don't call them costumes because it's not a Halloween outfit. I think that our uniforms that we're wearing on this tour, I think are some of the coolest stuff that we've ever worn.
Well, what's the design process for the uniforms?
Sketches. I think everybody has a pretty good idea at this point of what they want to look like. There are no hired designers who come up with designs for us. Whenever we tried that, it was a disaster because the people who know what we should be doing best are us. And when you put it into somebody else's hands, it just goes amok. And I think that Dynasty was a good example of that.
Well, I have to say regarding these particular uniforms, which is a good way to call them because we all are kind of in the KISS Army. When Paul he sent me a message, I think it was text, or he goes, "Hey, Eric, we need to start thinking about new ideas for what we're going to wear." And I said, "Well, what do you have in mind?" Because a lot of times, Paul is really good. He'll sit there and sketch rough ideas and then say, get everybody's input. He goes, "I think you should come up with whatever how you feel," and he knows I'm a big fan of like Hotter Than Hell and the very early era of KISS with the more leather. So as you notice, my costume is kind of a tip of the hat to that era, wearing flared leather bell-bottom pants and a vest, that type look. So, and then once I had the basic skeletal idea of what I liked, then I showed it to Paul. He goes, "Yeah, that's cool." So he goes here, and then he kind of detailed it or accentuated it, if you will. And so we really do work together. Everybody has input with each other, and I think that's the teamwork, if you will. I think that's really important, and it's nice to see because everybody's creative. Some people are, but Paul can draw. I can't draw, so he can go, "Well, here, let me show you. This is how it should look." Oh, cool.
Well, we've never been a band who shuns or runs away from our past. We are KISS, so when we incorporate something from another era, we feel we own it, and we're paying tribute to it, and we're proud of every era of this band. So when Eric came up with this idea, it looked right, and it's really cool to see stuff that harkens back to another era of the band, because that's actually what End of the Road is about. It's about celebrating all the eras of the band.
Except Asylum. Gene.
I stand guilty as charged. When we took the makeup off, it was like being thrown into an ice-cold river. I was in shock. I mean, I understood aesthetically, emotionally, who I was in KISS once the makeup went on and everything. I just understood it. It's tough to talk about it. It's like when a boxer knows when you get in the ring, you're going to knock that guy out. You know what that is. And then when he's on Dancing with the Stars and he's doing other stuff, you just kind of feel like, wait a minute, it's the same guy, but the movements are different. And I remember I was so lost that I was going through an airport, and very strangely, there was a tourist trap, one of these clothing stores, believe it or not, that was in Chicago. We were going to another city, and I looked in the window, and there was half a mannequin with a red, glittery, what is that thing called? Sequined top. And I went, oh, yeah, that's me. I got to get that.
Gene, don't forget the white gloves.
So I went in and I said, I'll take that. He said, oh, if your girlfriend is there, we only have one size. I go, oh, no, that's for me. And he goes, okay, you're the guy with the tongue and the thing? That's what, yeah, I want that. So I go to the show and I show the guys, and they're going, you haven't even tried it on? No, I'm going to put it on tonight. And also bought long white, I don't know, slutty white gloves. White gloves, when you lose your mind, go to hell and come. And not only was this thing just the epitome of stupidity, but it didn't even fit me, so they had to cut me open in the back. And the way women sew themselves into the show, they had to sew me in. And then we did videos. Well, I still have videos. I can't watch it. And the guys still make fun of it. On the other hand, Paul has one or two I'm very fond of.
I mean, it was an era where you go, yeah, let's put a little bit more eyeshadow. Whoa, look at these beautiful dangling earrings, And why don't we I'm going to wear a lime green robe with big shoulders.
And yellow.
Yeah. And tassels on it. That's really cool.
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s. We all have baby pictures, right?
Well, a couple of things. Eric, you said that Paul can draw. Well, he can also paint. Fine artist. Oh, and then there's, the musical theater stage.
How about his shoes? Show me your shoes, Paul.
Renaissance man. And, Gene, you mentioned you bought that stuff in the airport.
When we first started, we didn't have a manager. We didn't do anything. The way our outfits came together is we literally... Paul, I think, there was something like
I made
pleather.
pants for you and me.
Yeah,
I never sewed before in my life.
He can sew. And of course, mine ripped right away, but he made, and then we went down to a certain part of New York where you can go into pleasure shops, shall we call it,
sure.
pleasure chest.
Yeah.
Not far from here.
Right.
And we bought dog collars and all that. Now, of course, to get to the dog collars with the studs, you had to go through mannequins that were in rubber with balls in their mouths. You understand.
Yeah, sure.
I'm not making this stuff up. And then we looked at belts with studs on them. Yeah, that's cool. Let's make that into guitar belts, which now everybody does. We didn't know what we were doing. Yeah, you all copied us.
Yeah, we bought stuff in pet stores. The original collars were German Shepherd collars because those were all that fitted us. And Gene's right. We went to these
Pleasure chest.
a pleasure chest. There was a place called the Eagle's Nest. All these bondage stores, and you'd go
James
in there
Bondage.
and you'd see these. I still don't know, zippers for the eyes and a straw coming out of the mouth, and it's like, we were just.
So it
Jewish
could have been
kids.
even more radical than it was.
We were just Jewish kids from Queens,
And, Gene, speaking of the airport and looking at what you're wearing tonight.
You're going to say something about my sneakers, aren't you?
No, the weekend before last in Terminal 5 at LAX, I had dinner at the Rock and Brew, and I liked it. It was good. And
He's
that's,
talking about our restaurant chain. They're spreading across the country.
and I especially
Check
like
it
the
out.
coleslaw and the dill pickles.
All right, settle down. Don't get
All
excited.
right, now, the set list on this tour is going to be expanded from 15, 16 songs to maybe 25 songs.
Yeah,
So-
at least 20. We'll see. Look, we don't want to stay longer than the audience wants us, and you can get too much of a good thing. We want to make sure that when we leave, it's not because people are looking at their watches and saying, Jesus, I wish this would end. But we are going to make the show longer than we've done in decades. And we're so lucky because we have so many great songs to choose from that
to choose.
Well, I would think that would become a difficult process because you do have so many songs
But
to
we're
choose
lucky.
from.
We're lucky, and to those wonderful diehard fans who say, "Why don't you play something that nobody's heard?" The reason there are songs nobody's heard is because they're probably not as good as the ones that people have heard. So for us to put in something that's unknown would mean we'd lose Love Gun, Shout It Out Loud, Firehouse, Hotter Than Hell, Black Diamond. The list goes on and on. So what we're going to try to do, Heaven's on Fire, Lick It Up, we're going to cover all the bases and make sure that we represent all the eras of the band. But in terms of pulling out a surprise song that nobody knows, there's a reason nobody knows it.
What do you
Well,
think? What do you think, Gene?
what's the barometer for balancing the production with the music? You know, I mean, obviously you feel that the production exists to enhance the musical experience,
is
but
a-
how do you get that balance?
That is a really good point. As you know, and as we've been saying, we've been rehearsing for quite a while. And every once in a while, we look at each other and say, okay, this song, we're not going to do a single thing. We're just going to rock out, just without special effects. Don't let that get in the way of the song because it's a rocker. You want the integrity of the material to reflect the special effects with the right thing and the right, like I shouldn't be spitting fire in Beth.
But we actually had that conversation last week when we rented out the Forum in Los Angeles, big arena, just to do our pyro demo because we needed that much space and capacity. But we had that discussion about how much pyro in certain songs and all that dynamic is important. And we were talking about that actually last week because it is important. You can't, blow everything up in every song.
Right. I mean, the production design is very important.
Well, we've never seen the music as the accompaniment to the effects. It's always
Right, it's
been
the other way
way around. We've always been a band that tried to enhance the music with special effects and never depended upon those. I think we take a lot of pride that there have been shows where we used no special effects or did club shows because this band is really born out of an era of bands that I saw at the Fillmore East. I saw Derek and the Dominos, Humble Pie, Led Zeppelin, so many, Jimi Hendrix, bands that understood a certain amount of theatrics, but were there like church. You're preaching the gospel of rock and roll, and it's great to do it in a beautiful church, but you got to have the gospel, and by God, we do.
I just want to say that we have people who care about us, thank goodness, and the insurance folks also who keep saying, okay, can you just get a net here and there?
I forgot about
show?
the insurance folks. Yeah.
Oh, they're thrilled with us because, we fly through the air.
Don't tell me you're selling insurance now.
Yes.
I knew it.
Well, I cashed out. I used to have Cool Springs Life.
It's
But anyway.
Gene Simmons Insurance.
Yeah, we did. We had that too. But so we fly through the air, 40, 50 feet off the ground. We spit fire. We fly across the audience. Eric gets tossed up in the air, 20, 30, 40 feet. No net. So in a very real way, this is the most dangerous band, period. Nobody risks their life every show. I burned myself a few times. I'm not trying to say, look at poor little me. What I'm saying is we're committed to being Kiss all the time. And it's not easy. And we hardly have ever had special guests on that stage.
But when you do have special guests on the stage, because you talked about having former members of the band join you on certain dates, how are you going to handle, the identity situation? Are you going to bring them on? Have you talked about this? Are they going to come on stage as civilians and sit in with the band, or are they going to come as they were?
We really haven't given that any thought, but I will say unequivocally, this is Kiss. There are former members, and they are part of the family, but everybody who's up here wears what they wear proudly, and this has been the band between 17 and 20 odd years. So
Paul, next to you and Gene, Eric's been in the band the longest of anybody in all of history.
Eric's been in the band 20.
Well, on and off since the end of '91. So other than Gene and Paul, I've been in Kiss more than any other person.
Yeah, right.
But as a life statement, I just want to say I've known Paul Stanley longer than anyone other than my mother. So that tells you something, to survive this long. And, we're completely different. Don't kid yourself. It looks like, those guys are not, the other people argue and kill. We argue about all kinds of stuff, but it's two different sides of the same coin. We may argue about the curtain should be blue. No, I think it should be red. But that's nothing. We share, this entire band shares a very deep and respectful work ethic. You show up on goddamn time. Don't actually rose your way through life. No excuses. We show up on time. We do what we're supposed to do. And it is a privilege and a blessing that we're allowed to do this. There are many bands, many acts. I've certainly grown up with them who make me feel as if they're doing you a favor by getting up there and becoming rich and famous and playing whatever they want. Paul said it best before, hey, man, we're going to do a song just for us. I'm going, really? Bitch, I paid for money. I paid you money. Play what I want to play. I'm your boss, and that's precisely the point. You are our bosses, and what you want, we're going to give you, but in spades. We're going to give you more.
I'll tell you something. I want Gene to get his applause. Gene, right? Come on. I was going to say, go ahead.
Well, Gene's telling the truth. And Paul, you told me, it was so many years ago. You told me that you had the unique experience because of your makeup situation. Yeah. You had the unique experience of walking through a Madison Square Garden sold-out crowd who was there to see you perform, and you were able to walk through the crowd without them knowing who you were, so you could pick up their vibe and pick up the feeling, and you said it was one of the best experiences you ever had.
It's awesome. Also, I'm the only person in this band who has ever seen the band, because when I fly out to that platform in Love Gun, I get a chance to look at the stage and see the guys, and I can't tell you how proud I am to be a part of this band. I'll tell you something that might sound corny, but on the heels of what Gene was saying, we were just at the hotel cleaning up after the day's work today, and I swear, hand to God, I was thinking to myself, I am so damn lucky to know Gene and to know him as long as I do.
And how many guys can say they've had the same job, that they've been able to have the same job that they love for so many years? Now, I spoke to Ace last week. He's waiting for you to call him, by the way. Now, back to another question from the audience. Magnus Backstrom, that's a cool name, Magnus Backstrom, wants to know, what was the single most important occasion or event in KISS history? A turning point in terms of success for the band, a moment that, was pivotal.
I think for me, what was pivotal wasn't our first platinum album. It was our first gold album, because I grew up just wanting more than anything to have a gold album. That was the gold standard, so to speak. That was the award you got for selling 1 million, or at one point it was 500,000 albums. And when Kiss Alive went gold, that was a milestone to me. As sweet as having it go platinum, triple platinum, and our whole career, I think that moment was the one that was life-changing. It was achieving that goal that I set out for when I was little.
And
I'll tell you what, sorry to interrupt, but it's one of the things I do best. You can't beat birth. The birth of this band, and you never know if you're doing the right thing. You can believe in it all you want, but let me tell you something. We played New Year's Eve at what was then known as the Academy of Music, used to be the Palladium.
Yeah, it's an NYU dorm now.
Yeah. And it was a concert hall, and everybody played there. We were fourth on the bill. It was at the top of the bill was Blue Oyster Cult, and underneath that was Iggy Pop. And underneath that was, what was it called?
Teenage Lust.
Teenage Lust, a local band. And we were fourth on the bill. New Year's Eve. Our first record had yet to come out for a month and a half. February 18th, 1974 in New York City. February 21st in LA. Yeah, I know this stuff. But let me tell you something. That New Year's Eve, we get to the gig. And we invested money, on Bill O'Coin's, our first manager's credit card. We didn't have a thing. We had amps and a logo and a thing, and we were going to shoot fire and do all that kind of stuff. And by the third song, we're doing Firehouse, and my hair catches fire because, like an idiot, I didn't read the directions. Gene, don't spray too much because you're going to go up like a cotton ball and everything.
Hairspray.
What did you say?
Hairspray.
Hairspray. And so I went up in flames. But let me tell you something. There was another point. I used to, while he's going, do you feel all right? And I used to go with flash paper and fireworks inside, gunpowder, light it, and throw it over the heads of the people, except for one thing. Everybody's on their feet, go, who's this band? They're crazy stuff. And one guy, so help me God, hand to God, this guy gets up, and I throw this thing over the heads of the people, and it's supposed to explode. It does. But I didn't throw it up. It just went out like a baseball and hit this poor gentleman in the face. And you never see those freak houses where you get the thing and the duck goes over? We didn't see the gentleman before, and we had arrived. And at the same time, I'm going, oh my God, this could be the end. The astonishing miracle was, after the show, New Year's Eve, we're backstage. How were we? Was it great? You know, we're excited on one thing. Our career could be over on the next second. And this sweetheart of a guy comes back. You ever see melted cheese? Like the top of his eyebrow was gone. It was melted over his eyes. And we're going, oh, God, he's going to sue the... And he goes, man, that was the coolest thing I ever saw. It's true. And the manager at the time took him immediately to the hospital, and he, God bless him, signed off. You know, it was okay. And like one of those, I'm going to... It was like melted skin over the thing. You guys are cool.
And he's here tonight, and his name is Doc McGee.
Well,
Stand up, Doc.
you know, it's fitting that we're here in New York, and, you know, you're telling some of these great early New York stories. And, of course, the Loft on 23rd Street is a big part
We
of
passed that.
rock and roll history.
Yeah, just passed at 10 East 23rd Street. Passed that yesterday.
Do you ever stop and, like, have your picture taken out in front of the building?
I've actually gone up to where the Loft was. And... you know, it's amazing. If ghosts exist, they're in there because that is where the band got together. That's where the original lineup came together. First song we played together was Deuce. And so help me, when the four of us played, I went, this is it. This is our ticket. And here we are 45 years later. Built on a really solid foundation. And we couldn't have built this without the foundation, and we couldn't have built it without the people who were in the band all along the way.
And Tommy and Eric, obviously, as Paul just so eloquently stated, both of you, you know, had to fill a series of big shoes. But at the same time, it was important to bring your own personality and style into the performance, into your persona, into the way the songs are played on stage. And I would imagine that was probably a bit of a daunting challenge. Because you didn't have to just learn the part and do it exactly the same way. You had to bring yourself to it.
Definitely a big challenge. And like Paul said, 17 years ago, I became the guitar player, and, you know, big shoes to fill, obviously. Luckily, I play guitar real well, and I was able to play the parts and put the makeup on and do it. But it wasn't easy to begin with, and there was a lot of expectations and some pressure on that, but it worked out. The first gig I did, the first official gig I did was in Melbourne. It was the Kiss Symphony show in February 2003. And it was being filmed for a live album and a DVD, a documentary. And so there was quite a bit on the plate there at first. But hey.
There was Tommy was always around. Tommy worked on the Kiss conventions. Tommy worked, did all the heavy lifting on the history books. He became our road manager. Whatever needed to be done, he did. Co-wrote songs with us, showed up on time. And in case one of our members didn't show up because of unprofessional behavior, and I'll stop there, we're playing what was that?
Well, you know, it's interesting. On the last tour that Ace was involved, and Ace, I actually had an outfit ready in the case, just almost like an insurance policy, because you never knew what was going to happen. So finally, he didn't show up.
Well, a good team needs a good bench.
That's right. And I came right up, and so I had an outfit, and I got ready to go one night, and
he showed up at the very
right?
end. And the reason he didn't show up is not the first time. We were doing the Eurovision contest in the early 80s for hundreds of millions of people live out of Studio 54, broadcast live in Europe. And we had to do it as a trio because one of our guys didn't show up. He was at home, and I'll stop there.
And here we are.
Yes, and here we are.
Lo and behold.
And I want to know from Tommy and Eric, you two
I
guys.
want to just add, though, the one thing I think that people need to remember, and I think it's Gene and Paul are aware of this, but it's in our DNA. I mean, I grew up on Kiss, you know.
Right, but what's your favorite Kiss song to perform?
My favorite Kiss song is always, I know, well, I'm biased a little bit, but I love, you know, anything off the first three records, because that's what I was influenced by of Kiss. That early Kiss is my influence. But I would say "Do You Love Me" is my favorite song to play. And I know people ask me like, really, from a drum? I don't like it because of a drumming point of view. I love it because I like the song. I think it's a great concert piece. I think it represents all the elements of what Kiss is about to me.
And
Should
Tommy?
we play it on the next tour?
And Tommy?
You know, one of my favorite songs is Black Diamond. It was really the song on the first record that kind of caught me the first time I heard the first album. But in concert, it's an epic. It's a showpiece tune. It's the finale of the set. And it really is epic. A lot of great things going on. And then at the end of the song, everything blows up and the drum riser goes up. And
I like the subject matter.
It's just one of my favorites, yeah.
So we
Love it.
always talk about concept. How does it feel where you go? And we just talk free, like think tank. And in the early days, we start talking, and I say to Paul, you know, there's this cool Stones song, Brown Sugar. Really like this song, Brown Sugar. I'm going to rip that off and write my own song about a lady of the night. I'm going to call it Black Diamond. He goes, that's a cool idea. The next day he came in with the song finished. I'm going, you son of
Well, what's the toughest song to perform, and
That's
why?
okay. I had this great title, Christine 16, and he stole it.
I did.
You know.
And I went home and wrote it. Pretty good song.
But what's the toughest
You know,
song to
the
perform,
trickiest
and why?
song-
The most
I-
challenging
I'm
one.
sorry?
Yeah. The
You
toughest.
said the trickiest
Yeah.
song for us to play. Wouldn't it be God Gave Rock and Roll to You?
God Gave Rock and Roll to You is
Great
definitely
song.
just a great song. That's a song where we have to plant our boots and look at our guitars and really concentrate. It's such a great song. We haven't done it. Actually, Tommy and I did it. We did.
Tell them the story about that.
You tell them the story.
Well, a few months ago, there was a guy had passed away, and they were having a party. Really, it was a private party, and they said, "We want Paul Stanley to come play." Paul called me and said, "Let's go do this."
He was a huge.
And he was a huge Kiss fan. And I said, "So what songs are we going to do?" And Paul says, "Well, they chose 3 songs: Detroit Rock City." What was the other one? I think it was Rock and Roll Night. And God
there?
Gave
God
Rock
Gave
and Roll
Rock
to
and
You.
Roll to You.
And so when we hear God Gave Rock, now we got our work cut out for us on that song. But anyway, we did the gig and it was cool. But it was
You know, again, the beginning of the band, we don't really talk about it a lot, but when you think back on it, there was an awful lot of work there. We didn't have managers. We were self-funded. We didn't borrow any money. We worked during the daytime and scrimped and saved and did that. So during the day, we had this rat-infested roach hotel of just 4 walls with no windows, 1 fire door. You know, God forbid the thing caught fire and you die. There was nowhere out. And I remember we went down to one of the grocery stores and got from they were going to throw it out, these egg crates. Some of them still had, broken eggs in it. We'd take these egg crates and put them up on the wall with nail and, hammer and stuff to dim the sound. Now, of course, the ones that had crushed eggs and egg yolk and whatever attracted all the wrong elements. So during the daytime, Paul would be off driving cabs and, all that stuff. And I was working at, Vogue magazine and the Puerto Rican Interagency account, blah, 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 blah. Working during the day, we'd get on the trains, rehearse at night, and it got so hard because after we'd done rehearsing, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, we'd have to take a train all the way back to the end of, I wouldn't get to sleep until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the next day you got to get up at 7 to be at work on time. So I moved my bed into this rat-infested loft. And at least at the end of rehearsal, I'd be able to get 2 or 3 more hours sleep to get to work on time. Okay, now here's the horror story of them all. Every once in a while, there's an attractive female of the species that walks by, and if you could just snare them and bring them up when nobody's looking with the legs. So brought a few up, and in one of the night, there's one light switch on the way in. Once that turned off, it was pitch black, and you got to feel your way, and I put the bed in the middle of the room. And the poor young lady and I were getting acquainted in the dark, and all of a sudden a blood-curdling scream. And I ran over, put the light on, and a huge dinosaur-sized cockroach went off the bed. Now, by the way, we're both naked. That was the last I ever saw her. She grabbed her clothing, and it was then.
Well, Gene, besides stories like that,
You can't say those stories.
what are you
either.
looking forward to the most on this tour?
Cockroaches.
What am I looking forward to? I got to tell you,
Most looking forward to?
to be on stage with Kiss. It's the most fun you can. We have more fun than the Pope. We get up on. Are you allowed to say that stuff? That's a lot of fun. Hey, you never know. We have so much fun. It's also dangerous. Don't
What
kid
does that
yourself.
mean, Gene? More fun than the Pope?
It sounds good.
We both wear yarmulkes.
Okay, now as things are starting to wind down, we have a question from Michael Van Story, who wants to know if Kiss was everything that you guys wanted it to be.
Kiss has been everything that I ever imagined and so much more. My dream when we first got together was to have 5 years, because that was basically what bands lasted. Bands had never gone 10 years. We came out of an era before us when you had Fabian and Bobby Rydell, all these teen idols who, once the public got tired of, managers or record companies put someone else out there with new material. When we came on the scene, I hoped that we would get 5 good years. But what happened with rock and roll is that as bands started writing their own tunes, audiences got to grow with them. So rock and roll became much more like the blues in the sense that your audience could grow with you. So to have conceived of being I'm 66. I actually found out I'm 66. I thought it was 67. But
Well, it's good. When you make the mistake, it's good to, go backwards.
so I'm younger than I thought.
Yeah.
But to be doing this at this age was inconceivable.
Wait a minute. How did you think you were 67?
I was actually, after we did AGT, I was talking with Howie Mandel, and Erin, my wife, and I are talking, and we're talking about age, and I go, yeah, I'm 67. And she goes, you're not 67. I go, of course I am. So I'm feeling really young now. So anyway, to have the band last this long and to have people still want to see us and us not to be playing the lounge at the Holiday Inn is just friggin' awesome.
And starting with Gene. How do you want to be remembered?
I'm 69. I'm going to be proudly 70. Still have hair on my head, lots more on my back. But again, you want to go out on top. I'm going to turn 70 in the first quarter of this coming year when we announce dates. Proudly. And the tour will last until, I'm 71, 72, whatever that number is. And if you're, here's the thing. If you're running a race and you see the finish line coming up, don't you want to speed up? Don't you want to be all that you can be, towards the end? So we see the end coming, and we're gonna step on it. By the way, I forgot your question because I love the sound of my own voice. What did you ask me?
You forgot a lot of the questions.
How do I remember?
Doc?
The band is one thing. I think the band is one thing. We have raised the bar. When we were growing up, there were tie-dyed guys and people cross-legged on the floor with an acoustic guitar and lighting incense and charging full ticket price. Nothing wrong with that, but the less you give, when you go in and get a Vente and a Schmente and the smaller ones, you pay less. You get more, you paid more. We always gave more and didn't charge the highest price. And we were sick and tired of bands just coming up there and looking at their shoes and charge full price. So if you're going to a wrestling match and you see levitating sets and people getting on fire, whatever they're doing, whether it's Sir Paul McCartney or Garth Brooks, who we all love and respect, if you're seeing spectacle, yeah, it's because of us. Yes, we've raised, our legacy is that we've raised your expectations. I'll get that later. It is for me. We've raised the expectations, and rightfully so, because everybody works really hard for those dollars, and when they pay $1, they should get the bang.
And you see, she did get your attention with that ploy there,
Doesn't
didn't she?
doesn't
She got
take
your
much.
attention. Perhaps you already know, but where would you like to stage the final show and why?
Well, obviously, people say it should be New York.
Yeah, that's obviously what people say.
It's really too soon to say, but based upon the demand, it seems certainly within reason that we would end up at some point where we started.
And by the way, tickets go on sale tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock local time. So that would be Halloween morning tomorrow. Oh, happy Halloween, by the way. I was working in the lab late one night.
Bobby Boris Pickett.
Yeah, the great
And my
I was
eyes
working
beheld.
in the lab.
Here we go. The Everly Brothers of Bobby Boris Pickett. And my eyes beheld an eerie sight, and a monster from its slab began to rise.
Yeah.
And suddenly, to my surprise, he did the mash. He did the monster mash. The monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. He did the mash. It caught on in a flash. He did the mash. He did the monster mash.
Isn't it sad to watch old people on
You
stage?
You should see the movie he starred in. It's called Lobster Man from Mars.
Yep.
Bobby Boris Pickett.
I think it was Troma Films. Kaufman was the producer. By the way,
And it was with Tony Curtis, too.
Robert John did a follow-up. He did a cover at Paramount Records of the Monster Mash. This is what I'm here for.
Robert John, who did Everlasting Love. Okay,
Very
now,
good.
do we have any, before Carl Carlton did it, do we have any final words
It's a different
as we
song,
look
different
forward to the end of the road?
We couldn't have been here without you, and it wouldn't be right for us or for you for us to bring this to a close without letting you know that it's going to come to a close so we can have that incredible last memory together. This show is for us, it's for you, it's the culmination of 45 years. It's unapologetically KISS. We've never apologized for who we are, and we're going out proudly.
And we're going to end our time together on the stage here at the theater with this from another KISS fan, another KISS Army member. But it's not a question. It's a sentiment that no doubt many of your fans can relate to. This was sent in to us, and I felt it was really important that we share it with you. CC Storm wrote this. I discovered KISS at a friend's house when I was 5 in 1977. You got me through my childhood, my adolescence, and into my adulthood. Thank you for being there when times were great and when times were not. As much as I hate to see the band go, I know, just as everything in life, that this must come to an end. But I want to thank you for making it okay to believe in something when adversity can seem overwhelming. You got me through it all. Farewell, KISS. It's been an honor to be a part of your army.
Wow.
This is iHeartRadio Icons from the iHeartRadio Theater in New York City with KISS.
Thank you so
Paul,
much.
Eric, Tommy, Gene,
Thank
and
you.
our friends here in Tribeca. I'm Jim Kerr. Thank you so much for being a part of this very special night. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.